Hey, hello everyone. Welcome again to Take 5. This is Thursday. We're continuing in James and we're continuing to learn a little bit on how to live in trying times. We ended yesterday with an instruction about our anger. He said, be quick to hear, slow to speak. But then he said, be slow to anger. And if we think about it, we live in an angry day. Whether it's the news media, whether it's our politicians, whether it's everything we listen to, we live in an angry day. I've been accused by people close to me of being grouchy at times. They have no clue what they're talking about, and they just tick me off. I think they're right. What makes you grouchy these days? What makes you angry? James's words to us are very pertinent regarding our anger. Make a list of those things that make you angry. Pray about those things that make you angry. Pray for patience and for a better response. I think it was the first President Bush who said, when you get angry, before you say anything, quietly count to 10. That's not a bad response either. James talks about our anger. Here's what he says: be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Now I'm in chapter 1 and verse 20, and he says the reason we ought to be slow to anger is because the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. The anger of man, that's the natural, human, manly way of getting angry. The anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. The anger of man accuses. The anger of man is violent. The anger of man throws things and kicks cats and says nasty words that you can never take back. Be careful of your anger, because the natural human anger is the antithesis of the righteousness of God. And even during these trying times, we want to walk in the example of Christ, which is the righteousness of God. The anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. So be slow to anger. He says in verse 21, therefore, here's how you can be slow to anger. Watch your context. Watch what you're hanging out with. Watch out what you're looking for. Be slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Therefore, put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness. He's talking to believers and he's saying that. Put away all filthiness, whether it's your thought life, whether it's what you're looking at on your computer, whether watching, what you're reading. Put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness. That's the NIV. It's sort of an unusual translation. The idea of the rampant wickedness is just the habitual wickedness. And so think about your habits. I think about mine, the habits that we have, the things that we watch, the things that we naturally turn to. Those are the things that produce our anger. Those are the things that detour us from the righteousness of God that the Lord so wants us to be a part of. Habitual wickedness. What are your habits? He's gonna introduce a habit that is really, really important. He says, instead, receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. So instead of all of those other habits, the other night I couldn't sleep. And remember the day when you couldn't sleep and you'd get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it was almost like a signal it's time to pray. Nowadays, you can't sleep, and so you get up in the middle of the night, and what do? You turn on your phone, and you start letting that shine in your eyes, and so you're wide awake, and then you start reading the news and all that other stuff. And bad habit. There's a better habit in the midst of our days. Instead of the rampant wickedness, instead of the habits of this day, receive with meekness the implanted word. That's this. Make this, the scriptures, your habit. Receive them with meekness. And I think receiving with meekness the implanted word, he's talking about reading it. He's talking about deliberately, specifically reading the scriptures. What are you reading these days? If you're not reading anything, join me in the book of James. We're going to plod through this, but there's 5 chapters. Read it and then read it again, and go get another translation and read it again. But the habit that we ought to be having to avoid the anger that doesn't get the righteousness of God, the habit should be to be receiving the word. Read it carefully, read it faithfully. And to receive it also means listen to it. On Sundays, when you come, now this Sunday we can come again, even when you're live streaming, listen to the word as it's taught and receive it. Receive it with meekness, and as we receive it, this is able to, uses this interesting phrase, this is able to save your souls. This word is what will not only redeem you, it'll also sanctify you, it'll also purify your souls. The anger that we all know won't do it. Watch your habits. Let the receiving of your word, reading it, listening to it, and applying it, let that be the habit that washes your soul today. Well, that's it for Take 5 right now. On Friday, we'll continue when he says, don't just be doers of the word, be doers of the word, not just hearers. We'll start that next time. I'll see you on Friday on Take 5.